I keep getting this question all the time about how to start saving. So do you ever open up your bank app and think, where in the hell did all my money go? You work hard, you try to be responsible, and still, at the end of the week or the end of the month, there's nothing left. Well, here's the truth. Most guys don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because nobody ever taught them the basics about money and how to win at this game. So today, what I want to show you is exactly how to start saving, even if you feel broke, and why this one habit is the first step to financial freedom. So let's talk about the truth about saving. And let's get one thing straight right now. Saving isn't something you do after you get rich. It's what actually makes you rich. So right now, 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. And when I talk about that, we're not talking about just minimum wage workers or people on the low end of the income scale. Half of the people earning over $100,000 are still broke by the end of the week or the end of the month. And why is that? Because savings isn't about income. I know lots of people that make lots of income that are just terrible savers. It's about the discipline to set up the saving in the first place, okay? And saving is a defensive play. This is what builds confidence, and it allows you to have the ability to go on offense. It allows you to later on invest, to have opportunities, to breathe, not have stress and anxiety over, oh my God, if something happens, where's my money going to go? And when you start being able to save, you're not just building up a bank balance. What you're doing is you're rebuilding your belief that you can control your future, okay? So let me tell you a little story. Here's how I learned all this. This is how I started to learn about money and finance. So when I was a kid, my parents were divorced, and my brother and I lived in Las Vegas, and my dad and my stepmom lived in Southern California. And my dad used to walk around with a money clip in his pocket and a quarter and a nickel and a dime. And back in those days, he used to use cash a lot, okay? And so what he would do is at the end of the day, he would take the coins from his pocket and he would throw it into this bucket. And then he'd start the next day the same thing with a quarter, nickel, dime in his pocket, and every day he would just throw the coin in this bucket. And so what would happen is when my brother and I would come to visit, we would be all excited. We get to this coin bucket. We'd roll up the coins and pennies and dimes and nickels. We'd put them in the rolls and we'd take them to the bank. And what we were able to do is we had a savings account. We were able to put some of the money in there so that we would have money saved up. And then we were also take a percentage of that and learn how to spend. And so if you get good at saving and spending and investing and having money for a rainy day, that is the start of this process. And it's not about big dollars, but it's about learning how all that worked. And then when we would get the bank statement and we'd earn a little bit of interest, I don't remember what the interest rates were when I was 10 or 12 years old, but you would start to see that your money was in there and you would earn more money from it. So for us, it was our first savings account. It was our first way of understanding how compound interest and investing worked. And it also taught us to be able to take some of that money and be able to go spend it and use it for yourselves. So sometimes, you're 12 years old and you're like, nah, I don't want to get that ice cream cone because I don't want to spend the money. So it was a really good way to be able to learn these tools. And the younger and sooner you can learn them, the better. So you're going to need to learn these skills. They are basic entry-level financial fundamentals, and you've got to learn to pay yourself first. And as you make more, you don't want to be the person who just keeps spending and spending and spending. So savings is going to create confidence. It's going to show you that you can do it. And I don't want you to think about doing it at the end. I want you to do it at the beginning. So let's now talk about why do most people never start saving? And when I say saving, eventually it's going to lead into investing, but let's start with saving first. The biggest lie people tell themselves is this: I'm going to start saving when I have extra. And as we all know, if you do it that direction, there's never any extra, right? It's why so many people by the end of the month don't have any money left. The world right now is built to take every dollar you make and spend it, right? So if you're on Instagram and YouTube and all these places, there's always ads trying to get you to spend money on subscriptions and impulse buys and DoorDash. And then I go spend money on Amazon, and it's super easy to do it. And it's all engineered to help empty out your wallet, empty out your bank account, and spend all this money. And that's what they want you to do. If you go look at social media, I know for me, I get ads in my stuff all the time. And it's funny because once you click on one of them just to see like how much a suitcase is going to cost, 27 suitcase companies are falling into my scroll trying to get me to spend my money. So you just have to be very cautious about that. And we want to do our savings first and off the top. We're going to talk more about that here in a minute. But there's a Federal Reserve study that showed nearly 40% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency. So what does that mean? If you get a flat tire, or your dog gets sick and you got to go to the vet, or you drop your phone and it's broken, where are we now? We're in panic mode of how am I going to pay for this? And typically what happens is you take out a credit card on a high interest payment and you spend the money there because you don't have any money put away to be able to actually cover an emergency. Saving doesn't need to be thought of as a luxury. It needs to be your shield against stress, against anxiety. It's going to give you the ability to sleep better at night knowing you got a little bit of money there. And I don't care what any of these gurus say. To me, you can't have too much cash, okay? Don't listen to Grant Cardone or Robert Kiyosaki that always talk about cash is trash and don't use cash or don't have cash. You just want to make sure you put enough cash away so to me you can sleep well at night. So whether that for some people is $1,000 or 1 month or 3 months or 6 months of reserves, it doesn't matter what it is as long as it makes you comfortable. And once you realize that, your mindset's going to change because you're not just saving because you're supposed to, you're saving because it gives you options. And that's what you want to be able to have is options to be able to do different things, right? When we talk about these things, 64% of people right now are living paycheck to paycheck, and 40%, like I mentioned above, can't cover a $400 emergency. And that's just unbelievable to me that people get in their situations like that. So even for me, I'm going to talk about even for someone like myself, who I am a multimillionaire, and I have things happen to me that I need an emergency fund for. So let's talk about what's literally happened to me in the last 30 days, okay? So I was on a trip. I went to a little business conference in New York. And while I was there, I started to notice one of the back teeth in my mouth, when I would drink cold water, it would start to you get that cold feeling in your mouth. And as the trip progressed, my tooth got more and more sore and more injured, and I knew I had a problem. So as you guys know, I live part-time in Washington, part-time in Reno, and I was flying back to Washington, which is not where my normal dentists and doctors and people are. So I had to have my girlfriend get me into her dentist. I went and had x-rays done, and I got some medication to cover me while I got back to Reno a week later. Then I had to go see the dentist in Reno because my teeth was driving me crazy. And I do the same x-rays and the same medication again. And what I found out is I needed a root canal. And then once you do a root canal, then you need a crown. Well, the first dentist charged me $200. The x-rays the second time was another $200. The root canal was over $1,700. I found out yesterday, because I was at the dentist yesterday dealing with this still, the crown was going to be over $2,000. And that was just dental stuff. On top of that, in the last 30 days, the expansion tank on my hot water heater went out. It was all crusty and gross. We had to replace that. It was over $900. And then because I have a car in Washington and I have a car in Reno, both of them had a problem. My Reno car, all the coolant leaked out of it, so I had to get new coolant put in. And the line for the coolant was damaged. It cost me about $400. My car in Washington, which is my old car, which I'm going to replace next year, all of a sudden, the power steering was all messed up, so it needed a new power steering line. It needed power steering fluid. And before you know it, in the last 30 days, I spent about $6,000 on all these things, and none of it was planned, and all of it hit all at once and fast in 30 days. And because I had savings and because I had emergency funds, it was more of an inconvenience and a pain in the rear end. It wasn't a crisis. Did I want to spend $6,000 on this stuff? Absolutely not. But I did. I had the money, and because of that, I was able to do it. So saving is just a way to have self-respect in dollar form, in my opinion. It's able to have this money put to the side and be able to do it. So with those being said, how do we actually do this? Because this is a question I get all the time, and I have kind of 3 plays that I like to run in order to be able to save and put away as much money as possible, okay? So first things first, you have to track it to be able to then save it or attack it. And so you can't fix what you don't measure. And here's what I want you to do. For the next 30 days, track where every dollar goes. Now, if you're one of those people that does not want to track going forward, you can easily do this in reverse and go backwards and get your bank statement, your credit card statement. If you use Venmo or PayPal or anywhere you have money coming in and out that you spend, pull up all the documents, and I'm sure you can use some sort of AI tool, or if you want to do it by hand, you can do it a lot of different ways. Just don't overcomplicate it. You can use a notes app, a spreadsheet, which I have on our website. You can, like I said, use a pad of paper and just write it all down. But when you do this and you start to track what's coming in and what's going out, then you're starting to feel where those leaks are. So most people will discover these leaks right away, whether it's $300 too much on eating out, whether it's $150 on forgotten subscriptions, whether it's that $80 random Target run, or what I like to do is buy stuff on Amazon. It's so easy to overspend. But when you go back and look at this, the awareness, being able to figure out what you're doing is the first step. And I always feel like the average person at minimum can find $200 to $400 a month. I think a lot of times you can find even much more, depends on how disciplined you want to be. And it's not that difficult to do. And I'm not saying you have to budget or pay attention to this for years, but if you just start off doing it in the short term, then you'll see what it is going forward, okay? So let me tell you a little bit of a story. It was funny. I was talking to one of my really good friends. We were playing golf one day, and we're having a discussion. Now, this guy makes plenty of money, so these things really don't affect him that much, but he realized that 3 people in the family had the same Netflix subscription. So they were paying for Netflix 3 times when they didn't really need to. On the lower end, when I was talking with my son about this, who does not make nearly as much money as my buddy does, he was door dashing too much. They were buying prepackaged food rather than just cooking it or cutting it up or making it yourself. He had a couple of memberships that he didn't use, but his big one was DoorDash. He was door dashing way too much. And when he started to pay attention with that, I'm not saying don't do any of these things, but you don't want to be doing them at a level that you're way overspending and then there's no money left over at the end of the month, right? So you can't play defense blind. This is your way of looking through all your things. This is step 1, is reduce spending. Now, no one ever got rich by just reducing their spending. This is when you start that savings portion, and we'll do another video talking about investing later. But you got to start here to figure out, where are my leaks and what am I actually wasting? So the next step is you got to pay yourself first, right? We want to flip the script. And instead of trying to save what's left over at the end of the week or the end of the month, we want to save first. And even if you have to start off small and it's $10 a week, you want to be able to automate it. So when paychecks come into your checking account, you want to be able to automatically set up a transfer so that money is going to go right into your savings account. Ideally, you'd be able to do more than $10 a week or $10 a paycheck, but you got to start somewhere. And the goal of this is more a shift in identity. You want to be someone who says, hey, I don't want to be a spender who tries to save. I want to be a saver and investor off the top first, who also has spending commitments that I need to deal with. So I looked up some information on this, and if you're able to set this up, behavioral economists will call this pre-commitment, where you're making the decision that you let the system enforce it for you. So if you have these automatic monies going into these accounts, whether it's retirement accounts or a savings account, you have a much better chance to win. And the data, when I looked up and researched on this, backs it all up. Automatic savers are 2 times more likely to have an emergency fund and 4 times more likely to invest in the long term. So every time you get paid, you're going to want that money to get split up, and some is going to stay in your main checking account for your bills, and some is going to get moved into your savings, which future will be investing. And then, of course, you got this other account over here for the non-essential spending. That would be more like your fun account. So you can do those things. And again, where most people start this off is like in a 401k at work, where they're able to start automatically putting money into the 401k and automatically starting to invest that. But you'd be surprised, especially when I talk to young men, how many people work at a job where if you put in money, your company will match you and you're basically making 100% off the top, and they're ignoring it and they're not doing it. And it's just a shame because it is free money and it is 100% earnings on your investment. We can have another conversation another day about the differences between 401ks and Roth IRAs and all that stuff. But if someone's willing to give you free money, you've got to take that free money, and this is part of the starting of setting all these things up to be automated. So the big takeaway from this section is this: you've got to automate the process to make this happen for yourself. It's great to say you're going to do it every pay period, you're going to automatically or manually transfer this money over, but that discipline is way too difficult. If you just automate it, it's just going to become effortless, okay? And the third step in this process is we want you to split up into 3 buckets, okay? So if your money all sits in one account, it's way too easy to get to your emergency funds or to your savings account money. So we want to break it into 3 things, okay? First things first, we play defense. Those are the accounts that keep the lights on. Then we play offense, start putting money to the side for your future. And then we put some money in a freedom account, and that's your sanity. That's where you get to go have a good time and have some fun with that money and not feel any guilt in spending it. So once these buckets are separated, you're going to finally see where your money lives, where your money's supposed to go. You're going to stop guessing what you need to do. And that feeling of control is going to hit fast, and you're going to be able to win at this game. And it's these simple, easy systems that help you win. So how do we start off? And the whole goal of this was to start saving. So let's start off with like a reasonable goal and something that you can attain for yourself. So how do we get that first $1,000 into a non-retirement account, right? This is your, for lack of a better word, your emergency fund, your ability to start off saving at the beginning. And when you're able to save up that $1,000, your psychology is going to change from, I can't, there's no way I can do this, to I did it. And that way, when you do get these curveballs, you're not going to panic. You're going to be able to do that. And this is kind of a Dave Ramsey thing. Dave talks about it, and I'll say it a little bit differently than Dave, but this $1,000 isn't supposed to just be the be-all, end-all. Lots of things. Like when I bought 4 tires for my car, it was almost $2,000, okay? So this $1,000 is not going to solve all your problems, but what it is going to be proof that you can be trusted with money, you can put the processes in place, and you can start this process, right? So once you're able to do these things, your confidence is going to compound faster than even the interest, because this is just the starting point. This is just the beginning of being able to do this thing. So here's where we're going to challenge you. And at the end of these next few videos that I'm going to come up with, I want you to actually go out and do something, since this seems to be the questions I keep getting over and over, especially in my short form content. And here's the challenge I want you to do this week, okay? I want you to go out and open a new savings account, hopefully a high yield savings account, and name it something. So like on my phone, my accounts are all named different things. Call it your freedom fund, call it your emergency fund, call it whatever you want, and start off by at least putting $10 in it, and that's it. I literally was just doing this. I've been meeting with 4 13-year-old boys, and they're doing it this month. And I'm going to check back with them. I'm going to meet them after the first of the year. And I want you to just prove to yourself that you can start, you can open up the accounts, that you no longer are that same person that is not able to save. And so if you're able to play this game and do it, it's not about doing this perfectly. It's about building momentum. So if you want to start here and learn more about how this whole process works, subscribe to the channel. We're going to go through this every week. We're going to run, especially the next few weeks, simple, easy tools to start saving, investing, emergency funds to get you started. And then we can start worrying more about investing and the long-term things. But we got to start with the basics here. You got to run these plays and organize yourself to get this process started. So if you have questions, reach out, DM me. I'm easy to find. And hopefully this will be step 1 in a long process of you getting your financial house in order.